Coming up on today's show, I want to talk about the ramifications, or maybe what is next following the Brandin Cooks deal to Dallas, because what does that mean for Cleveland, who was reportedly interested in trading for a wide receiver, right? Could the Browns be looking to trade for DeAndre Hopkins or Jerry Jeudy next, now that Cooks is off the market? Also, we'll take a look at the latest on Odell Beckham Jr. and whether or not the Browns have any serious interest on a return with OBJ. Now, first things first, though, if you believe in Andrew Berry, as I do, I mean, I don't want to be a complete sheep, but I'm pretty sheepish right now for Andrew Berry. So if you're in the same category as me and you think he's doing a good job as a GM and you like the path that he has the Browns on right now, like today's video, let's show AB some love. Now, we all woke up this morning to the Brandin Cooks news of him getting dealt from the Houston Texans to the Dallas Cowboys, and a lot of Browns fans had a very similar reaction. That's all? That's all it costs to get Brandin Cooks? A fifth and a sixth? Why didn't Cleveland do this weeks ago? Well, I think it's a good reminder that trading for an older, which he'll turn 30 in September, expensive, he's got a decent base salary, wide receiver, or just kind of player in general, it's not as costly as you may think, right? And it's a good reminder for myself, too, of we like to prop Brandin Cooks and maybe even guys like DeAndre Hopkins up and go, that's going to cost you a first or second. I think you got to be that first territory if you're close to your rookie contract and you're still in your mid-20s. Once you're about 30 or older and you've got a big contract, well, it might not take a lot to land you a player like that in a trade. So, Brandin Cooks was never my top trade target, right? I've never really stood up here much and said that Cooks is my number one guy. Was I open to trading for Cooks? Sure. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a seasoned repertoire, a seasoned history with Deshaun Watson. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to lose sleep over the Browns missing out on Brandin Cooks for a fifth and a sixth. He had a bit of a down season last year. He's getting up in the age column, and he's got a, decent contract coming over to Dallas, although I'll tell you why that shouldn't be a major concern for trading for a receiver. But Cooks was never my number one guy, so at the end of the day, I could live without the Browns trading for him. Now, here are some other wide receiver trade targets. Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Hopkins continue to be the top two names on the market right now. We'll look at both of them individually, and then I'm going to toss on Elijah Moore because I still think he could be a sneaky good trade target for Cleveland. Let's start things off by looking at Jerry Jeudy, though. So the trade rumors surrounding the former 15th overall pick have been up and down, right? Katy Perry, hot and cold, in and out. One moment he's on the block, the next moment Denver does not want to move on from him. To me, that tells me there's a lot of smoke screens going on, and if you actually really do want him, he could be got in a trade. Now, the reports is that Denver is looking for a first or a good second, which number 42 is a good second overall pick, a good second round pick, plus a player, and that player, if you look around the Browns roster, someone that makes some sense could be someone like Greg Newsome with the surplus the Browns have at cornerbacks. Now, are the Browns aggressive in their pursuit over Jerry Jeudy? Benjamin Albright, who, if you remember, he's the guy that said Cleveland will not get Deshaun Watson. Here we are today, but he still is a really good reporter who's really well tapped in with the Broncos. Tweeted out, source confirms multiple teams have called inquiring about wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. Price tag remains high, team asking for first or high second and a player. Patriots, Browns, and Cowboys, which we can rule Dallas out now, who was among interested at trade deadline last year, among others inquiring. So if those seem to be like the three top teams right there, and the Cowboys got their wide receiver with Brandin Cooks, maybe it does come down to New England or Cleveland. And with the Cowboys out, maybe if the Broncos secretly do want to trade him and they're actually just hoping for a first, but they'll settle for less if they don't get one, maybe the Browns could swoop in after all and get Jeudy without having to give up a first-round pick that they don't have to give up. So we also have this from another Broncos reporter, Mike Gliss, also well tapped in with the team, who tweeted out over the weekend, while lots of teams have called on Broncos wide receivers Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, including some who have been aggressive, I wonder who that is, it doesn't appear Denver is interested in moving them, per source. He'd go on to say, Jerry Jeudy emerged at end of season, and there's hope Sutton will return to 2019 form. There's optimism throughout football side. Both will thrive under one of the game's best play callers. So to me, this sort of signals that the Broncos are open to trading Jeudy or Courtland Sutton, but we're just focusing on Jeudy today. But they need to be wowed or blown away with an offer. And if they don't get one, they're happy to hold on to the players because it's not like either of them requested a trade, so they're just forced to make a trade even if it's not a good one. But I don't think ultimately Cleveland will have the ammunition to get it done because I think Denver is simply going to say first or we hang up the phone. And I don't know how much further the Browns can progress in a conversation that starts off like that. But don't put it past Andrew Berry. The guy is an absolute wizard. Now, before we move on, I want to tell everyone about today's sponsor. So, today's Cleveland Browns Report is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day, and so can you at athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I gave AG1 a try because I hated taking pills and vitamins and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. AG1 really helps me with starting my day on the right foot and getting into a healthier lifestyle by starting the day with one great choice. Also, covering my nutritional basis for the day couldn't be easier thanks to AG1. I just mix a small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing in the morning. Poof, done. I also really like that it costs less than $3 a day, which is pretty good if you ask me. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free one-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. I put that link for everyone in the comments and the description of today's show. So make sure to pay him a visit and let him know that PD from the Browns Report sent you. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Mary Kay recently did a mailbag article, and someone asked about Jerry Jeudy, and I wanted to share with you guys her response. As for Broncos 2020 first-round Jerry Jeudy, I'm sure the Browns have probably inquired, but the Broncos do not seem interested in trading him, a source tells Cleveland.com. They would likely only do so if someone makes them an offer they can't refuse, and the Browns don't have a first-round pick this year or next. It's not that it can or won't happen, but it appears unlikely right now, right? This is what I've been saying for, honestly, months at this point, right? Go back to the first time we discussed Jerry Jeudy for Greg Newsome. I don't really see why Denver would be interested in Greg Newsome if they're trying to get picks and reset a little bit. And I don't see why they would trade Jeudy for anything less than a first if they wouldn't do a second before the NFL trade deadline and his value's only gone up. Now, I do agree with what some people have commented of like, Petey, don't be so naive. Teams always ask for a first, but then they know they got to come down a little bit. And that's true. I think that's got some merit to it. The issue with that is I just don't see that the Broncos are dying to trade Jerry Jeudy, right? If you don't want to trade a player and you don't really get a great offer for him, doesn't really seem like a trade's going to happen. Now, Jerry Jeudy, if we look at his stats, though, through 3 seasons so far, the dude's gotten better each year. He missed some time in 2021 with an ankle injury that's honestly sort of plagued him on and off throughout his entire 3-year career. But he ended the year on a very high note. In fact, if you took like his last 6 games, and I know it's a small sample size, but took those last 6 games, stretched it over a 17-game season, though that's like a 1,400, 9-touchdown performance type season. So if the Broncos or any other team thinks that's what's coming for Jeudy, a first-round pick would be a bargain for a guy that's a proven commodity, well, proven, but a maybe soon-to-be top-tier wide receiver. So what does a trade look like? I kind of go back to the same plain old Jane. Jerry Jeudy for a second and Greg Newsome. I just don't see Denver doing it, right? I think Denver will say, if we're not getting a first, we're holding on to him because we don't need to trade Jerry Jeudy. He just might not fit what we want to do offensively with Sean Payton, and we don't have any first-round picks this year, thanks to Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. But if no one wants to offer a first, that's fine. We'll hold on to him, and we'll enjoy maybe him starting to be an ascending wide receiver. So would you do this Jeudy trade? Would you move on from Greg Newsome after 2 seasons, have the Browns not pick in the first or second round this year to land Jerry Jeudy? That is the question. I love to hear what you guys have to say, so please comment down below. Now I want to talk about DeAndre Hopkins. Is this plan B or C? I don't know who plan A really was, right? Is it Hopkins all along? It doesn't appear like Cooks was the number one guy. Now, Hopkins does have a bit of a base salary issue, which is he is due $19.4 million in base salary this year. So don't look at that and say that's the end of the road. The Browns can't pay him that. What are we even talking about here, Matthew? Hopkins could restructure his contract, or like we just saw with Brandin Cooks, you could see Arizona take on some of that base salary to facilitate a trade. If the Browns say, we've got no issue with giving you the draft capital you want, we just don't have room for him on our books. And Arizona goes, well, we're not going anywhere this year. We'll pay half his salary if it means we can get some more draft picks to help this reset down in the desert. Go back in time to this tweet from Ian Rappaport on March 8th. Arizona Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins admitted on Pat McAfee's show that he's been hearing a lot of trade talks. On that subject, my understanding is if a trade did happen, he'd be flexible on the last 2 years of his contract, rather than shoot for a top-of-the-market deal. In English, Hopkins, who has a no-trade clause, if the Cardinals go up to him and say, this is the trade we found, the only hiccup is they can't afford your contract, we need you to take a bit of a pay cut, sounds like he'd be willing to do that if it means he goes to his top-tier place, and maybe all along he wants to reunite with an old Texans quarterback that he had a good thing going with here. All right? Like I said, this is not the first time that's happened. Just, 3 hours ago, Adam Schefter tweeting out, wide receiver Brandin Cooks restructured his contract Sunday so that Houston will pay $6 million of his salary this season, and the Cowboys now will pay the remaining $12 million. See, very often you will see a team eat some of the salary to get a better draft pick in return. The Bears did that with Khalil Mack to get a second-round pick from the Chargers. When Von Miller got traded from the Broncos to the Rams so LA could go win a Super Bowl, Denver paid all of Von Miller's salary, actually. Rams barely paid any. But in return, Denver got better draft picks. They got a second and a third. So Arizona might say to Cleveland, if we pay for some of his salary, will you give us some better draft assets for it? If the Browns really want Hopkins, at the end of the day, if that is Andrew Berry's like Vontae Mack and a Post-it note in his pocket, I don't think a contract is going to ultimately hold things up. The cap's not real. The cap is a myth. It's sort of real, but ultimately, if you really want a player, a couple $1 million, it sounds like, in a trade isn't going to be the thing that stops a trade from going through. Hopkins will throw up stats on screen for everyone just to familiarize yourself with when he's playing 16 games like he did in 2020, how truly special he is. 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns. Or in 2019 with Deshaun Watson, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. I mean, to recreate that magic, I know there's a certain Clemson fan watching right now that would love to go back in time and just have DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson back on the same field again. So now we shift gears to, okay, if we check the money box, what does it cost to really get him? Remember, Dawg tweeted out just the other day, the asking price for Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins is a second-round pick plus something else of value, according to Albert Breer. Worth noting is due $19 million. We don't care about the money. Okay, second-round pick. If Brandin Cooks just went for a 5th and a 6th, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going for something closer to a 3rd or a 4th and like a future pick or something, right? I don't really think Arizona is interested in bringing on veteran players for Hopkins. They want to go young, reset, but it's a new regime in Arizona. I'm not really sure. I didn't think the Texans would want to sign a bunch of dinosaurs, but they did that in the first week of free agency. So I just think Arizona might be looking for a second, and similar to Denver, might be looking for a first. But the difference is Arizona wants to trade DeAndre Hopkins. They want to get his books or get some of his salary at least off their books, and they want to get some draft assets so they can go young and reset the clock a little bit. Denver doesn't need to move on from Jerry Jeudy. He's not getting paid $19 million. He's not 31 years old. He could just be entering his prime. So, on the other hand, with Arizona, I could see the Cardinals saying, we want a second. NFL draft rolls around. No one's offering a second. Browns call draft day trade and say, this is the only offer you're going to get. It's a 3rd or a 4th and a future pick for Hopkins. Take it or leave it. So here's my trade idea. The Cardinals get a 4th this year and a 5th next year for DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe Arizona is going to be stubborn and won't do anything without getting a 2nd, but I think it won't cost that much after seeing how little it costs to get Brandin Cooks. So pick a trade for me. Of the 2 we looked at today, would it be Greg Newsome going to Denver for Jerry Jeudy, or 2 picks going to the desert for D-Hop? Let me know in the comment section below by typing the initials. Would love to see what you guys have to say. For me, if we're doing short term, best for 2023, win right now for sure, DeAndre Hopkins. The guy's a top 10 receiver when he's playing a full season, not the case the last 2 years. Best long term, because he's going to be on a rookie contract for 2 years, Jerry Jeudy. He could be an ascending guy. He could get up towards the D-Hop level. I don't know if he'll be as good as DeAndre Hopkins, but you could have him for a lot longer. As for D-Hop, who's kind of approaching the end of his career. All right, I really want to quickly wrap up with this on Odell Beckham Jr. because I've talked for too long already. So earlier reports were that OBJ was looking for like $20 million on average on each season. That might not be true. How do I know that? Because OBJ himself tweeted out that. I'm just so confused where the quote is from me, where the quote is from me that said I want 20. All I'm saying is 4 ain't enough. Very curious who offered him $4 million. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably the Dallas Cowboys, who hate NFL free agency. They haven't made any signings so far, but maybe it doesn't cost $20 million. Let's be honest. You can't tell me that OBJ, Amari Cooper, and DPJ with Deshaun Watson would not be electric. If we just remove 2019 to 2021 from our brains, what is there not to love right there about Odell Beckham Jr. coming back, although if we just removed it from our brains, coming to Cleveland for the first time? I'm gonna officially declare this OBJ's first stint with the Browns if he does re-sign, because we will have blocked out those 3 disastrous seasons ultimately with Baker and OBJ. Never happened. Erase it from Wikipedia and boom, it's off the books. It'll honestly be like a Mandela effect, right? Some people will remember it. I don't remember it, so didn't happen. This sounds like an awesome first-time thing that could be a great connection by the lake. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys later with more Browns news and rumors.